Welcome to Now and Forever, a series of 10-minute reflections on good news spirituality, sponsored by the Charles and Catherine Free Family Foundation, headquartered in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and brought to you from Our Lady of Sacred Heart Parish here in Watertown, New York. With me, as usual, Vicki Phillips. Hi, Vicki.
Hi, Father.
And Pat. Everybody knows Pat by now.
No.
Pat Henry. And Pat, would you start us off with this? This is, again, a continuation now. All these are really on evangelization now. That's what it's about. Pat, take it away.
Accepting the principles that evangelization is a work of the parish is the place to start. Making it happen takes forever. What? Doesn't that imply that it can't be done? No. It simply means that the work is never finished, that it is a constant in one's way of life. To make a comparison, even though you may eat 100 bushels of potatoes during your lifetime, or 150, you can't do it all in one day. More to the point, we have to understand that this principle applies to evangelization more in terms of what a parish is supposed to be than in terms of what it is supposed to do. Oh, there's the rub.
Yeah, so it's identity and purpose. See, that's
right.
That's now your identity. They have a Latin phrase, agere sequitur esse. Doing follows being. In other words, if you a duck is a duck, and a duck does what a duck does. A horse is a horse, and a horse does what a horse does. Now, being a duck, then a duck will walk like a duck, and
right.
being a horse will walk like a horse. So here, what they're saying is that when you talk about the most important thing is the being, then that determines the doing. And so if you understand that your identity is that you have been blessed with faith, and that faith requires you to live it in a meaningful manner, and to really care of others, then that's going to be your purpose. You'll have a sense of purpose that corresponds to your identity. Your purpose and identity. Okay, so I'm going to take this next paragraph.
I'll do this one.
All right. Hey, roll that up a little bit. Do that next one.
Yeah, we're there.
Oh, we're there?
Yeah, we're there.
Oh, okay.
One might then ask the question whether this effort to be might also take forever. The answer is yes and no. What? How can you have contradictory answers to the same question? Here again, we need to take into account the difference between being and doing. In terms of being, for example, even though a calf isn't a full-grown cow, it isn't some kind of animal while growing up into a cow. In the same way, a parish comes into being with the mission to evangelize as an integral aspect of what it is. Now, as far as doing is concerned, evangelization will go on until the end of time.
Okay, so what that really says is that the being is once there you are, then that's what you are. And the being is a constant. You can't all of a sudden say, well, tomorrow I'm going to be, we won't do evangelization, we'll do apologetics, or we'll do sports, or whatever. The sense of being is like when a calf is already a cow, but the being doesn't change. The being is done. In other words, God has a pattern, a blueprint, and then we follow that.
So relate this to years ago when you were here at the parish.
Yeah.
And you had the small group.
Yes.
That went through the evangelization, remember?
Yes.
And then you took us to your family.
Correct.
To share what we had done.
Yes.
So we were building on what you had started.
Yeah.
So along the way, we might have been changing a little bit and then sharing it, but it didn't change the name of it.
The being was the same.
Right, the being was the same.
The being is a constant. The doing, you can say you're constantly doing, but the doing can change. You have to meet different needs and everything,
right.
Different
the being
emergencies.
is the constant. Okay. So the being isn't the process, or is it the process?
Oh, being is a process, but it's, in other words, a calf is calf is going to become a cow. Okay.
Right.
So that being starts just as soon as you're born.
Okay.
And once you are baptized and you are into that state, and once you enter a parish, you become that member of the parish, and that is the constant.
Right.
But then the doing, you have to, you say, well, what are we going to do now, and what are we supposed to do next, and so forth. Vatican II talked about the being aware that the needs of the times, be sensitive to what's going on in the times. And that is not, I don't think we've done that very well, because to me, the needs of, when we did that program, that was a good program for the time.
Right.
But now, things have changed so much that the kids, you could bring a kid into that program and he wouldn't have a clue what you're talking about. It's so changed, it's so drastically changed. And that's why we still haven't developed the follow-up for that, but it's still working on it. But see, my booklet 3, that's the one where I really treat this stuff. Where you get back to it. Now you can start with the fundamentals. Like just knowing that we have emotions.
Right.
And what are you going to do with those emotions? Are you going to have, you all know the IQ, your intelligent quotient. What about your emotional quotient? Do you have any hope of ever becoming a mature person? So many people grow up today, they never get mature, They don't learn any accountability, they don't learn any what. All right. Hey, anyhow, we better finish this.
Yeah,
you want to do the next one?
Being and doing can be reduced to what we recognize as identity and purpose. Each contributes to the other. If we look at Jesus as the model of what this means, we can see that his being and doing, his identity and purpose were in complete harmony. As the Word made flesh, the Son of the Father, Jesus was incarnate love. At the same time, his very being revealed the awesome truth that God is love, the essence of the good news. There is no inconsistency between his identity and his purpose. The same has to be true of us. If we are evangelized, we too have to be incarnate love, a way of being that we can be realized to the full only in union with Christ. Realized into the full only in union with Christ.
Yeah, right. That's the only way you can realize it. To be incarnate love is by being one with Christ. And that's really, that's the essence of the good news spirituality, where you realize whether you're worshiping or whether you're working, it's always being one with Jesus. It's not, well, now I'm praying and I'm with Jesus, now I'm going to go work and forget about Jesus. It's all the time, it's all the time. I think we have just 1 minute, so I'm going to read that last paragraph.
Get it.
Vicki, next time you're going to start reading again. Putting it all together, by being members of the church, we are one with Jesus, and we can give witness to what it means to be Christians. On the other hand, if we do not witness to the good news, that is, if we do not evangelize, we will be living under a false identity and utterly failing our purpose as members of the mystical body of Christ. And that's our final message. Good being with you again. Take care and God bless.